of The Independents. I'm streaming on X, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm talking to the cameras in the studio. I will catch all of you on the flip side. What are we talking about? We are talking about Seth Rich. Remember him? Got murdered back in 2016. All kinds of stuff coming out on that. We'll talk about the top big lies, and then also about the weak points in the whole vaccine lie, as well as some nudging. I'll catch you guys on the flip side.
And now, here's your host.
Good Lord. Hi, guys, and welcome back to The Independents. I am back in the studio after a break for 4th of July, which, of course, is our annual Secession Day. You know, people talk about the 4th of July as Independence Day. Of course, it was independence, declaring independence from the royal king over there in England. But of course, really, at its very heart, at this 250th anniversary of the birth of our country, it does stand to remind people that we as a nation were born from secession, that independence is worth pursuing. And of course, if you watch my show, The Independents, I like to lead by example by saying that getting independence down to the most nuclear level, I mean, I actually mean cellularly, on a mitochondrial level, but down to you as your unit. And so may we all try and be as independent as possible. All right, what are we going to be talking about today? Today we're going to be talking about room 9582. Let's see if we can make this one stick, guys. This is a secret room that the FBI found that contains troves of hidden secret documents, handwritten notes by Comey, stuff from Seth Rich, who I will dive into in a little second. Of course, murdered back in 2016 in incredibly suspicious circumstances. So, room 9582, what's up there? We will also be talking about the practice of nudging. Nudging sounds so sweet and just like someone is just trying to help you. But when the government nudges you and uses nudging in order to manipulate you into certain behavioral patterns, probably behooves you to know what that is. It is, of course, the art of manipulation. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I want to cover just a little bit about top 20 big lies. That's just kind of to situate you guys with this situation, which is the government on the regular lies to you and then covers stuff up. And that basically is where we are as people. You should not trust the government. You should not trust institutions. You should not trust anything coming out of anyone's mouth. And of course, while you're clamoring for reform, may I remind you, usually things don't actually get reformed. And that is why you should move to the free state of New Hampshire and come join me here, where we will become as independent as humanly possible. And then last but not least, I want to dive, and we're probably not going to have time for this, but if we do, into 10 weak points about how the machine is defending vaccine science, which, you know, vaccine science and smoking science, kind of the same thing. So maybe you want to go rewatch a few movies about about cigarette propaganda to just kind of remind yourself of what the landscape looks like today. All right, room 9582. What's up? So, I know this sounds crazy, but this is an internal specific designation for a previously hidden or unmapped room called a sensitive compartmented information facility, a SCIF, a CFIF. I'm sorry, a SCIF, sensitive compartmented information facility at the FBI headquarters at the J. Edgar Hoover building. And it was uncovered last year around this time in mid-April 2025 during an internal review or cleanup effort by then Kash Patel. Now, I don't know about you, but I actually missed this when this came up last year, 2025. I didn't hear about the secret room they found at the FBI office. I must have been busy with some other stuff. But this room was not on any standard blueprints, and it turns out it is filled with a cache of 5 or more burn bags, which is where they take classified information they don't want you to know, because if you knew what they were up to, you'd probably be a hell of a lot madder. So they had burn bags in there, and then they had a bunch of historical information, which included information about Seth Rich. All right, there was also Crossfire Hurricane, which I guess is the FBI name for the nonsense about who was stealing whose election back in 2016. We know Hillary was stealing the election from Bernie. Apparently, Trump was stealing the election on behalf of the Russians. You know, everyone was in the mix there stealing the elections. But of course, you dutifully showed up and voted. There were some other information that had to do with the classified annex to the Durham report. This was materials from Special Counsel John Durham's probe, which included intelligence on the origins of Crossfire Hurricane. I mean, who's making up these names? Have they run out of like words to put together? Crossfire Hurricane sounds particularly stupid. All right, also in this secret, undisclosed, hidden room that appears on no maps where they go and they put all their shady stuff, included James Comey's handwritten notes. This was Comey's personal notes back when he was FBI director. These were found inside a safe inside the room, and they included notes on topics like the Clinton plan intelligence. This was a CIA tip about alleged Clinton campaign efforts to tie Trump to Russia, which of course we know they actually ended up doing. Their access logs and storage history that were reviewed in related investigations. Then there are other classified records they found, hard drives, miscellaneous classified documents, other sensitive materials. I don't know, maybe we need to file a FOIA, see if we can figure out what's going on there. And then, as I mentioned, the Seth Rich related pages. And this actually is several hundred pages connected to Seth Rich. And these actually came out because of FOIA requests that lawyers are putting in. Now, those of you who follow me know that I believe open government is our last chance at getting anything reformed, although I have to admit I am now so cynical that even when we get the information and we can tell the truth and we can say this is what happens, rarely, if any time, does anything happen. So I'm not entirely sure why we're bothering, but I'm here to tell you the truth so that you can make a decision as to whether you should trust your government. All right, so what was the whole Seth Rich saga? This is to remind all of you. Now, you might recall back in 2016, this was in July 10th, so about 10 years ago today, Seth Rich, then a 27-year-old DNC data guy who was kind of like a Bernie bro, got shot twice in the back execution style, murdered in a very Tony neighborhood where these things don't happen and where murders are usually solved. He was popped at 4:20 in the morning, and it was clear that something was up. It looked like he fought back, again, shot in the back. The cops called it a botched robbery, except nothing was stolen. It looked like he was defending himself. Who actually gets shot in the back by robbers who then, I don't know, don't rob you? Little suspicious, right? So then around that same time, WikiLeaks, this is Julian Assange and that whole channel, right? So the people who dedicated their lives, Assange, uh, Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden, all those whistleblowers who came forward to be like, hey, we are committing war crimes and disgusting real problems, lies about weapons of mass destruction, et cetera, that people were telling us about the war in Iraq that the government wanted to hide. And so WikiLeaks was already in it. So around this time, 2016, when Seth Rich gets murdered, WikiLeaks starts to disclose a treasure trove of information that makes the DNC and the Hillary camp look very bad. Because what were they doing? They were colluding illegally, fraudulently, and definitely unethically against Bernie Sanders. Now, look, I'm no fan of communists, but I'm like, if you're going to have a system and you're going to have rules and you're going to have policies and you're going to have procedures, then you should follow them. So these emails start coming out that make it very obvious that Clinton is shady, shady, shady. And then what happens? Suddenly it becomes an official story from the intelligence community and from Mueller himself that the Russians hacked it all. It's the Russians' fault. The Russians are stealing the elections. The Russians. Don't look at Ukraine. Don't look at Hunter Biden. Don't look at Burisma. Don't look at Biden. Don't look at Hillary, for crying out loud. Let's just focus on Trump and the Russians, right? So the FBI in all of this is super, super sus, right? In 2017, the FBI tells the FOIA lawyers, we have zero records about Seth Rich. We never investigated it. It was a local robbery. What are you talking about? We had nothing to do with it. Reminder, 2017, FBI, we didn't touch this. We know nothing about it. Now, 10 years later, there's a secret room filled with documents about the dude. Later, they're like, oops, we have thousands of pages. We have his work laptop. We have images from his personal computers. We have DVDs about the dude. But then they're like, we're just going to drag our feet in court. So then in 2025, 26, we have this bombshell. We find this hidden room 9582 at the FBI headquarters. And of course, if you're like me, I'm like, let's make a movie. Let's get, I don't know, Nicolas Cage, and let's go find all the secret rooms at the FBI headquarters and figure out what they are actually doing. Because I can tell you, if they're covering up a conspiracy theory that they're calling a conspiracy theory, there's some, if not a lot, of truth in whatever that conspiracy theory is. All right, so why the hell were Seth Rich's files sitting in a secret room with Russiagate burn bags ready to be destroyed when the FBI, I don't know, swore they weren't involved? Kind of seems like, I don't know, maybe the entire FBI needs to be shut down or overhauled. Maybe Trump could do that as a gift to the nation. All right, so here's what we know. Seth Rich was murdered. They never caught the guy. The FBI lied about it, said they had nothing to do with it, and now we find all these suspicious documents at the FBI. I would say this is a red flag, and there's something that needs to be investigated further. So I don't know if you guys are feeling as cynical and skeptical and possibly even a little angry as I am. But I want to remind you guys, I'm going to lead in with this. I'm just going to kind of read you quickly the top 20 biggest lies or heavily misleading dominant narratives, if we're being nice, from the last 50 years, where basically people told you you were a conspiracy theorist if you said there was something suspicious going on. But pretty much turns out, as my Oma used to say, vara firis, varas ruekas is the fear, which is if there is smoke, there might be fire. So remember the weapons of mass destruction that I just mentioned, right? Back in 2003, they were like, yeah, they got weapons of mass destruction. We got to preemptively go nuke these dudes. Turns out, nope, nope, nope. Literally, they were just sitting there lying to the public, to you. Russiagate, that Trump's campaign colluded with Russia to steal the 2016 election. That was an entirely fabricated story. The Steele dossier was a Clinton-funded psyops that was seeded through the FBI to the media, and there was clear collusion between different people, fingers pointing, Russia did it, we stole the elections, all of that stuff, right? Number 3 on this top 20 big lies that the government tells you. Remember when the COVID lab leak theory was a racist conspiracy? How dare you, Carla? So it turns out that was a very credible hypothesis, that there was strong circumstantial evidence from the start. I think the truth on that one is still going to come out, and it is going to be a gain-of-function lab leak theory funded by the US government that caused COVID mania, that explains the response, and Fauci should go to trial and hang in a Nuremberg 2 type hearing for justice. All right, then there's Hunter Biden's laptop. There's the mRNA COVID vaccine stop transmission. Remember that one when they were lying to you? 9/11 official story. Opioids are not addictive. All of these are going to sound kind of familiar. Remember when they told you milk and eggs and butter are bad for you and that you should eat these highly processed foodstuffs? That one, also a big lie. Actually, it's been really great to see the work coming out of Maha and out of Bobby Kennedy's movement, where they are actually overhauling the food pyramid and looking at the actual drivers of heart disease, and they are stopping a lot of this low-fat diet nonsense, which is just highly processed carbohydrates. They replace actual nutrients with taste things and with sugar. We have an entire nation that is addicted to sugar, and it is a problem. I am not going to get into all the rest of these because they are just simply too depressing, because I do want to spend a little time talking about the gentle art of manipulation. So, what is nudging? So this is a word you will now hear, and it is basically a form of behavioral influence that subtly steers people to decisions by changing the environment in which the choices are made. This is without actually banning anything or using obvious force. It is the art of manipulation, and governments are now using it against you on the regular. The term itself comes from behavioral economics. It's from Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein, from their 2008 book called Nudge. So Nudge. So the core idea is choice architecture. Instead of telling people what to do, you redesign the default options, framing, timing, and social cues so that the desired behavior becomes easier, nay, may I say automatic, and socially rewarded. So, a simple example that we all know and understand is organ donating, right? So, at some stage, I think it was at the DMV or on your driver's license, it became that you were automatically opted in to donating your organs, and then you had to opt out, right? So that's sort of a fairly low stakes one, although literally the government being like, we're going to steal your organs. Shh, don't worry about it, right? So another example might be, if they place actual healthy food at eye level, which they don't. What do they place at eye level? Look at any shopping checkout, right? The kids in the trolley, candy, 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 because we're addicted to sugar. So sometimes people call nudging libertarian paternalism. I clearly don't like that term, right? I don't even think we should bring libertarianism into this. I think if people aren't conscious of their choices or they're being manipulated into desired outcomes without their consent, then we have problems. So the nudges exploit well-known cognitive biases. So when you see defaults, right? So those defaults mean something because people tend to stick to whatever the default setting is, right? So they're getting really smart about it. So probably your phone is at all times monitoring you. And if you didn't change your settings, if you didn't say, hey, I don't want my GPS on my photos, hey, I don't want this, hey, I don't want the microphone listening to me unless this app is open, etc., you can assume the default setting is like, we're going to take as much as we can. They use social proof against you. What does this mean? It means that they go, hey, everyone likes this. And then suddenly people are like, oh, that person's popular, I guess, right? And so they'll also support it or bolster it where they're like, most people like this. And then you get manipulated that way. There is framing, right? So that will be when you pit, say, gain or loss against your gain or loss language in a scenario. So under COVID mania, for example, that would be where people were saying, oh, you should do this to protect your family, right? To avoid severe illness, like that kind of stuff. And then they also use, and this is a clever one, right, where they engage the ego through giving you sort of a sense of ownership. So that could be where you feel like you've already bought into something. So it's almost like, hey, we've reserved your dose, just show up, right? So the last two of the exploited human cognitive biases that they use in this nudging process, which, by the way, from an Orwellian standpoint, is like a 9 out of 10. Even just the term to nudge when you're clearly manipulating people is kind of newspeak in and of itself. The last two are ease or friction reduction. So this is where they remove small barriers as you're going, right? So this could be where you have one-click stuff or you have text reminders that pop up. And then last but not least is when they use authority or urgency, things like, so suddenly those tee up your cognitive biases and you're like, oh, I'm going to listen to this because Fauci is wearing a white lab coat and I must believe him. So of course, all of these manipulation tactics are tried and tested. They come from behavioral science and they are being deployed by your government against you without your consent. And that is what happened during COVID mania. So the largest test case of this was actually out of the UK. And it was the UK Behavioral Insights Team, the BIT, tested and deployed. 42 additional COVID vaccinations were scaled by putting top of the messages to people, hey, your slot is open, come now, right? They discovered that framing things as helping others, don't do it because you're scared, do it because you're a good neighbor and you want to help grandma down the street because you're a good person. That helping loved ones framing increased willingness by 3 to 4 percentage points. And that's why they did it. Not because they care about grandma, because they wanted you to also take the risk of the vaccines so that Fauci's wife, who was his ethicist, could sleep at night by saying, oh, I guess if everyone did it, then we didn't really oops it too badly, right? Here in the United States, the UCLA Health RTC showed text reminders with ownership framing, significantly boosted COVID vaccine appointments and uptake. Hey, it's up to you. We're in a team. Like all of that stuff is them manipulating you. So, why should you be concerned about nudging? Well, because, someone's like nudging you. Do you like it? I don't like it. So at a minimum, you should be able to identify it so that you can decide whether you want to be nudged and what you're being nudged for. All right. So first of all, it bypasses conscious reasoning. You should never let a gentle push bypass conscious reasoning. They are designed to work fast on your sort of subliminal thinking rather than deliberate thought. And this is their tactic to reduce your ability to give informed consent. There is a power asymmetry that we are not talking about online, where the government is now doing these things to us willy-nilly. No one's consented to it. No one knows what they're doing, but we're all being manipulated. There is a lack of transparency about these things. At a minimum, I'm like, open source everything. Make every data that the government provides, collects, make it searchable, make it auditable, make it transparent. The nudging is part of the process of the erosion of autonomy. So over time, constant nudging trains people to accept external steering. I mean, honestly, I think that is a large part of what we saw during COVID mania. I talked to so many people, and so many people have so many deep regrets and health problems. And honestly, 4 people I know have died of very aggressive forms of cancer in the past 2 months. You can tell me it's anecdotal. You can say, Carla, that's just your experience, but I'm telling you something fishy is going on, and all of you know it too. They are also using this erosion of autonomy to combine it with other tools that are now going to come down the pike. Let's assume that they were experimenting on you and on me, and they learned a lot. And next time, it's gonna be even more bananas. What should you do next time they come for you? Like me, you should remain independent. You should make sure that you have control over your own psyche, over your own health, over your own body, over your own unit. I heard this clever thing the other day, so I'm going to share it with you guys with my last moments here. I thought this was smart. Happiness is when you have better challenges. Success is when you have better failures. And discipline is when you have better addictions. May you all be addicted to sunlight, to happiness, to peace, love, and understanding. I'm out of time. I'll see you guys back here next week. I think I'm out of time. Okay. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. I will see everyone back here again next week.